Good afternoon, Fabian and Camille.
Hello. Hello. Shall we get going? Okay, so we were asked through Craig to develop a plan to deliver a decomposed CI implementation by the end of October within 48 hours. We had a discussion about it. I think in essence, I think the answer is this is not feasible. It is, I think the reality is we have like sort of 3 dimensions that we can work with, right? We have scope, quality, and time, right? And I don't think we are in a position where we can significantly decrease scope if we want to decompose the CI tables, really, maybe on some instance. If we are going to reduce time even further, I think the main thing that will happen is it would affect quality, and given the risk associated with this, quality means something's going to go wrong. And I don't think that's necessarily acceptable. Also, after doing a little bit of sort of comms and trying to figure out where this request came from, my impression is that this is driven by a perception that by October 1st, the database is going to fall over. And based on that estimate, obviously an October timeline for delivering stuff makes sense. But I think there are a couple of things that I would like to highlight based on my current understanding. First one is, based on the latest estimates from Andrew, the October date does not hold. We're not, I think, going to topple over at that point. The second thing is that, and I think this is maybe where things also are a little bit confusing, also for me, the CI decomposition work is one dimension of the work that we need to do to increase database scalability. And there are other things ongoing that already do this. So they have, I think, different impact and different timelines associated with them. And so we should be, this is sort of a suggestion that I have maybe to help with the visibility of this, right? Is to say, like, we understand database capacity is a problem, right? This is, in this TAMland estimate is sort of the best estimate that I'm aware of, right? And here are all of the things that are happening to address the key concerns in that document. And this is not only going to be CI decomposition, but it is also going to be other things, right? Like we are doing the primary key overflow mitigation. We are thinking about petitioning. Like Yorick has debloated things, right? So there's a lot of things that are going on. There's coordination needed between them, but I think that may also help sort of alleviate some of this concern that we need to deliver a very complex technical project in very, very little time with a very high risk profile, to the extent that it may actually not be possible. So maybe we literally just need a Gantt chart and an overview table that highlights where we are sort of across all efforts. That is what I'm thinking.
Okay, now it's my turn. Let me share all I know. So the date October 1st is mentioned in .com stand-up. I think there was a Slack channel, a conversation. Jerry mentioned that he will attend the stand-up today, explain that this date no longer holds. So that date is from there. So the leaders were driven backwards from that date. So that's first where that date came from. Second, the request to still plot a plan for October. I don't know why. I just want to be honest. I don't know why with all the data, but we haven't updated the leaders about the latest data. So we'll see how that works. But to be honest, I don't know why. But as you see that the infrastructure team actually is working on something similar. If you follow the stand-up, Steve has items to work on a plan for the scenario. What if we see a 10x or even more load increase on the system? So that's totally a cooked up scenario at this point. Oh, sorry, let's share this internally, this video. So we should not share it outside. So that could be something playing here. Could be some factor that's playing some decision making here. I don't know. I just have no way to verify that. So that could be something impacting this decision. And I do understand all the reasons here, Camille, and everybody shared that, a lot of points. I understand that too. So this is all the background I have. I don't have more information aside of what I said. So I think what the best we can do is basically my two questions. Would more people help? What kind of people we need? But that depends on how much work can be parallelized and how much work we already know. So Camille already explained it very well. We shall bring this back to the stand-up probably, or in the working group meeting. We shall present all this information there to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And also, is there any opportunity to trim down the first iteration? I saw your answers too. So
we are the most iterative as we can be on this subject. If we trim down more iterations, it's not gonna have the benefits that we described. So then what is the purpose of even doing that in the first place if it doesn't bring any benefits, and we ship something that either increases technical depth or increases complexity but doesn't help with anything. So unlikely. Like we are looking at the time frame right now. In the 3 or 4 months from now to finish the development aspect, it's already a very stretchy goal. What can happen? Like we're not gonna be able to roll out that because rolling out production changes. Take a look at the PG12, something that was, I guess, probably different, but maybe of the similar complexity. How long it took, and we actually had a lot of control over that. And rolling out like reaping the benefits, like it's not gonna happen in the October because we may be able to finish all the development changes by then. But then it's like the whole process of the rolling out, which kind of leaves with these own like rollout changes and aspects that like we don't want to break GitLab because it will be even worse than not rolling out in the first place and rushing that. So I think my answer is no. Sorry. I'm not sure if everyone agrees with that, but I think my answer is no. It's not really like that we can shrink the scope because it's already a very small scope. And it's already the simplest out of all the proposals that we tested. And like it's already like very stretchy timeline to do development changes. And we already have to fix a number of the aspects to make it even like feasible. And we are in the control only half of the whole story, because half is like development and the second half is the infrastructure that we don't control. We also don't have even yet assigned SRE at this point, and this is something that we are waiting for. So I think it's impossible for having this rollout because of like all the constraints that are beyond our control at that point.
Okay.
Thanks, Camille. And Chun.
Yeah, sorry. So what I'm thinking right now, I get a very clear answer from the team. So what I'm thinking right now is to develop two plans to present. One is, of course, we do everything we can to achieve the October goals. What do we need? I mean, what do we need? And the other plan is, whatever we do is impossible. Then draw a plan with more granular date, not as coarse as a quarterly, but let's say which months we can achieve a first deployment and to realize some headroom gain.
I'm kind of thinking there is like, at least in my head, there is no plan that would make October date feasible in any reality. I think like if we are banking on that, we should have a set of alternative aspects to increase the headroom to actually be able to execute that in its own time frame. I'm just not seeing that happening.
Yeah, I agree, and I think maybe we can take a step back, because my question is, why is this a problem? And where is this concern coming from? And I think my understanding is the concern is coming from the fact that there is, a risk that by October the database is going to fall over. And if I am not wrong, based on what I've read in the documents as they are available, this is not true, based on the data that we have. And Yorick, do you agree, or do you disagree? You shake your head, sort of.
No, I shook in terms of approval, as in, I think what we've sort of run into here is the trap of projections, whereas in you see linear growth in the past, and so you assume linear growth in the future, or exponential, whatever it is. And it kind of comes to the old saying, at least here in the Netherlands, with finance, where results achieved in the past are not a guarantee for the future. Mm-hmm. It probably translates to many different languages.
So no, and I think this is like, for me, if there is no like risk of falling over in October, but there is generally a risk of, like scalability concerns. I think maybe the conversation does not need to be, why can't you deliver CI decomposition by October? But the conversation should be, okay, how long, like what is the latest projection given the data, right? And what are the different things we are doing to address them? Because they have different time horizons, right? So for example, Craig and Yannis need to keep me honest here. Within the next 2 months, we're going to have mitigations for the primary key overflow risk, which is identified as the highest risk for our scalability issue right now. That's gone. That has nothing to do with CI decomposition. And so there's maybe another list of things that are either ongoing or that where we need to define when they will start and how long they will take. And then it's actually sort of a multiple things are happening in parallel, and CI decomposition is one of them. And because it's complicated and risky, it's going to take longer. But that's okay, because we have enough time. And that's, I think, what I'm trying.
Sorry, I raised my hand. I want to interrupt you. I think one thing I just want to share is unfortunate. For all the information, to my best knowledge I got, this October call is unrelated to where the tipping point is. I'm just being blunt. I don't know why. I think some information was already passed. Say the tipping point right now, even given what we are doing, like you said, all the things we're doing, and the timeline projection is roughly towards the end of the year. So we have 2 more months at least. But the decision was still shooting for October.
I don't, sorry, just so I understand you correctly, you're saying the projection, like it is understood that the projection is not October, but the desire is still to deliver this by October.
Correct.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand it too.
I think we definitely need more context. I get
okay then.
Yeah, I get when upper management wants to challenge a team and challenge their assumptions and see if we can get some more out of this, any kind of goal that you set up, right? But what I'm reading through this thread and the Slack thread is, no, we can't meet the October timeframe, even if we had, none of the constraints that we had now. Like, and the biggest constraint I'm thinking of is SRE. They can't stop what they're doing to fully staff and help, with the 3, 4, 5, 6 more people on our side anyway. So yeah, I think, Chun, we need more context from Eric as to why, as we explain, like, here's what we can get in October, but it's not realizing the headroom that you're looking for. But in parallel, we're getting all of this other headroom with all the things that are listed in that spreadsheet. And just understand what he's concerned about. My conjecture on this is there's still some concern that, well, yes, we're not going to tip over in October. We may be at a point where it's so bogged down that performance starts to degrade a little bit, and we still have 3 or 4 months to go, right? Maybe they just want to clear this out and get that headroom before it becomes a problem. And right now we just don't have enough evidence to point us from. Although, I mean, the early projection is we still have a year's worth of runway on our current database. So I get why he's asking, or I get why it's being asked, but I think there just needs to be a conversation there where we come back with this information and say, yeah, October deployment is not realistic, but here's what we can do in that time frame, and here are the gains that we will get out of it.
Yeah, I think stand up may not, we don't have enough time to discuss there. We shall assemble a plan or proposal here. Like, okay, we don't think that's a realistic goal. Here's are the reasons. And we shall schedule a meeting with Eric to explain.
Isn't that going to be part of the working group meeting on Monday? Do we need to schedule another meeting?
I can double check, but what I got is we cannot wait until then. We need a plan from yesterday. We wanted to see a plan in 48 hours.
We will have the plan then by tomorrow, I guess, with like the best estimate that we can have.
Yeah, I think I can ask for that extension. We can schedule a meeting with Eric together tomorrow morning to go through our proposals.
Okay, but thank you, Chun, for your transparency here. I really appreciate it. So I've had a chat already with Marin and Brent, right? There's also a lot of opportunity costs, right, in whatever we end up doing, and there are many things going on at the moment. And yeah, I think Camille said it very, very clearly. It feels to me as if, I would not know what kind of plan I can craft that I can stand behind, given the information that I have, even with more time, because I wouldn't know what to say, because it wouldn't be real. And at that point, it to me feels like that's not fair for the team that has to execute on that, because it wouldn't happen, right? And then.
Okay, now I get. So the team consensus is it wouldn't happen. Simply wouldn't happen. It's just no way to get it in October.
Yes,
like as I said, I think
we can provide a plan with realistic time frame, but there is no like plan for the October simply.
Yeah.
We can,
how about
we can probably provide a plan with like how we see the timeline. Given the things that we know, there is still like increasing uncertainty the longer we are from the current date. But I guess we probably have like the general understanding about the steps with some level of the confidence, but it will definitely not be October. It will
how
rather
about
be the end of the year.
But I think this is the other thing where I feel we've provided an overview of this, with the granularity that we're comfortable with, with like Q2, Q3, and Q4 goals, right? So within Q4, we believe we can realize that headroom. I think, like, I'm just wondering if this is the right discussion to have, and maybe there's some kind of communication mix-up, right, in the mix where assumptions are being made that are not quite right, and maybe that's the first conversation to have, because otherwise it's going to be confusing.
Is it possible to develop a more granular timeline, like instead of Q3, Q4, like what months we can see some benefits?
I think, I mean, we can go full waterfall mode and invest like a couple of months planning this out into detail. But I'm also wondering why is that needed at this point? What is the added benefit of that? Right? We've done a lot of this work, and it has created overhead, and that's sort of my concern with this, right? It's like I can take a week and I can probably come up with a very detailed and granular plan that is not going to have a lot of overlap with what's actually going to happen, and so
it'll probably be invalidated in 2 weeks, right? So with any
Yorick
kind of discovery.
sorry, go ahead. Yorick wanted to say something, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask one thing first. We seem to be generally under the some people seem to be under the assumption that at some sort of finite point in time, specifically in this year, magically our database and everything is going to explode and basically commit Sudoku. What are is it known what we're sort of the most worried about? Are we worried about, say, CPU use, storage, everything? Because if, for example, a concern is, hey, in let's say October, but it could be any date, we're going to run out of storage, then we could, for example, come up with a plan and say, okay, we're going to do all the stuff we want to do, but for October, our goals is going to be, clean up these tables, etc., and we're going to save, this much space, and then based on the projections, that gives us, this much extra time. But if, for example, the concern is, let's say, the number of writes, there isn't really a sort of quick thing I think you can do before October. Because the sort of natural process there is, well, you reduce the number of writes or you make them less expensive, but that is a very sort of micro optimization kind of work where you really have to get into the details and say, okay, we have this little bit, so we're going to do this here and then there. You can't do something like, oh, we'll just move data to a different table. So I'm kind of curious there if it's known what the sort of exact, well, not exact concerns, but sort of what slice. Is it storage? Is it basically load? Or is it something else?
I think I can give very quickly, I can give you only the context that I have, right? Which is I found this capacity review document, which is still in progress, right? And it lists specific areas that are identified at highest risk. So for example, the integer overflow, right? And then the next thing is large tables, right? And then there's a bunch of other things in here, right? And so I agree with your assessment. And this is what I'm kind of trying to do, is to compile a list of initiatives that are ongoing, that are going to address these points and when that is going to happen, and essentially say, look, this is what is being done across many different groups to address these specific items. This is the timelines associated with them. Many of them will be done, some of them will be done before October, some will be done after October. But that is sort of as a package is going to mitigate these risks. Plus, I think there is not necessarily a concern about this sort of explosion within the next 6 to 12 months. And so that's maybe also a question. It's like, we should do all of those things, and we will, but yeah, like as Chun said, maybe that's still the ask, and then I'm a little bit out of ideas myself.
Yarick, you're
You're muted.
You are still muted.
I got muted. I don't know how that happened. I was going to say that I think what might be happening here is that we're perhaps not so much worried that there's going to be a point in time where the system says no more. I mean, we've had these thoughts for years, and years ago people said, "Oh, we need to do this because in this many weeks this will happen." And basically, doomsday never comes, or at least never comes when you predict it to. Put it that way. I suspect what might be playing a role here is that there is a certain 3-letter event coming up somewhere in the near future, and that GitLab has this assumption that when that happens, suddenly we'll get 10 million extra users, or some sort of growth. And I personally believe it's fairly naive, but I don't know what they're working on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's the conjecture that's killing us, right? We're given an edict without context, and to pile on, we were asked to focus on the CI tables instead of decomposing something else, so that we know that we can roll things out, right? Like we talked about decomposing the logs tables, but we were asked to focus on CI so we can realize that headroom. So telling the message I would give was, we're being asked to set a date, and we've got fixed date, fixed scope, and effectively fixed people based on the constraints. And that's always a recipe for disaster. So we need to have a conversation with Eric, because this is based on the frustration I'm feeling and what I'm reading in the room, in the threads here. This is just not productive at all to ask this question.
I think we have heard all the things from the team, but what the team presented and what we were asked to do doesn't cross each other. So what we were asked is basically taking October as the ending date, as as the end of the world date, then trace back to see what we can do to make it happen in October. That's what we were asked. So that's why I'm asking if more people helps, or there's an opportunity to trim down. But I got the answers. Thank you. We don't need to repeat.
No.
On the other side, the team feels it's absolutely impossible to do things to achieve that in October.
Yeah, I think we are still operating under the constraint here that we want to do something that is reasonable, right? It's like, I can probably give, like Camille production access, and we try to do it, and it goes wrong, and then, well, we've taken an unacceptable risk. It's like, you can always like do things with a very, very high risk profile, but I don't think that is being asked of us. So because that would feel very destructive.
I would add to that, like, we can do something different. It's not gonna give benefits that we described. So then the question, what is the point of doing that in the first place? We can move archive tables without even caring about migration, probably starting writing, and like after 3 months, like our problem in my database will simply go away. But it will not give benefits. That was like the fundamental reason for doing that in the first place. So like we could probably mark doing something useful that would be not useful at all, but that's not really like the intent of our work.
To clarify, the archive.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. To clarify the archive tables, when we saw the initial discussion, we feels like the team agreed that we won't get much headroom from the archive tables. It's just a tooling or paving the path towards a good solution.
I mean, we would reduce some kind of data store to some extent with more and more tables added over time. But if our primary focus is like amount of the tuples and CPU sets, it would bring basically zero benefit that is noticeable from the scalability of database. So
I need to drop off because I have another meeting, and that may end up killing this meeting. So just a warning. But
Okay, but
I think
I think
the
we
last
have
thing-
all the points. Yeah.
I think the last thing I want to do is I still think that from sort of a project management perspective, even though we have 0 project managers present in this meeting, I think we can do like some improvements, right, and aggregate what is being done and present that in a maybe more like rolled up fashion, right? I think that is generally helpful. But that doesn't change what we discussed. I think that just makes it maybe a little bit more apparent what is going on. So I'm happy to help with this, but you know, that's a different thing that we can maybe do, because I do think it is, you know, if we say like, oh, we're doing everything we can, we have no good way of saying, and this is what we're doing, right? I think that may be a problem, but that's my only thing.
Yeah. Okay. Let me circle back a little bit and update later. I mean, I will circle back to the leader to see what they think about this. I will present, extract information from here, then see what we get. Don't do anything. Don't assemble any plan right now. That's overhead. We don't want to waste our time. So wait for my feedback to see what next step is. I will make it very clear what we talked here.
Thank you. If you need any help, please let me know.
Thank you very much. And there is a stand up today. If I don't know how much time we will have on that topic, but if you can join the stand up, please, and help the discussion, share more information if I don't have all the information to share with Eric.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.